Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Under Eagle Mountain Making Podcast. Hello, I hope you're all well. I'm cold. You can probably see I've got lots of layers on. I've got my heirloom quilt cardi vest that I wore last time. I've also got a Felix sweater that I knitted in like Lopi quite a few years ago. I've got a thermal vest on, I've got thermal leggings on, I've got a scarf on because it has been very cold this week. The weather's been beautiful actually. We've had a couple of days of snow, like all Monday night it snowed, and then quite a lot of yesterday afternoon and evening it snowed, and the snow hadn't melted in between, but it's very cold. It's like in the minuses during the day. Which is fine. It's beautiful. It's sunny and there's no rain. It's just gorgeous. I'll maybe put a picture at the end of what it looks like outside my window. But in their wisdom, the gas company have decided that this is the week that they're going to do some essential gas repairs on our lane. And predictably, it has not gone to plan. So they turned the gas off at 8 o'clock yesterday morning and said it'll be back on by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And it's now like 10:30 the following day and it's not on. And currently there is no indication as to when it might come back on. I think the problem is we live over a railway crossing and they've like got to replace the pipe. It's an old pipe that's falling apart and there's been a leak. So they've been putting off doing it for ages, but there's been a little leak and so they have to. And basically they've replaced it this side of the railway crossing and they've replaced it the far side of the railway crossing, but they can't do underneath because any faffing about might damage the railway line. And then obviously that's unsafe for the trains to go on. And so the rail company are just saying, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. But they're not really helping coming up with a solution as to what they might do. So in their wisdom, they decided they'd start digging and just see how they got on. And not well is the answer. So we have got a lot of wool on. And I've got 2 kids off school, the older 2, because the buses have been cancelled, the school buses and the public buses, because the roads are so icy. So it's been a bit of a week between that, and at the beginning of the week I had a really horrid cold. You can probably hear I've still got a sort of gravelly voice. Sorry about that. I am feeling much better now. But I didn't feel great at the beginning of the week, which meant I didn't do things like the food shopping. We've kind of hobbled through and I thought, I'll just go today and do a big shop. But now everything's super mega icy and I can't get down our hill in the car. My husband's been parking his car at the bottom, clever him, so he's able to go out to work. So I think he'll bring some stuff home, but I hadn't anticipated having 2 children off as well, so that's a bit of a pain. They'll be on bread because I can only cook things in the oven and not on top. I didn't do any like washing or anything, so now I've got loads of washing, but it's never going to dry in the house with no heating. I'm going to have to like just fill up the lounge where we've got a fire with all the washing tonight and just kind of let it steam. Anyway, so that's all boring. Sorry. I'm sure you're here for the making and I will get onto that. In amidst this week, I decided on Wednesday that I would start some tidying in the sewing room. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen the levels of chaos to which I descended. I just pulled everything out of a big cupboard. The cupboard is actually called the Cupboard of Doom by my children because whenever they open it, stuff would fall out and hit them. So I thought, right, I'm going to deal with that. I say this regularly, but at this time I have actually, it looks loads better. I've got like rid of stuff. I mean, like it's been like repurposed or moved, or some of it's just been composted, like a bag of tiny like stringy bits of scraps of fabric that I feel kind of guilty throwing out, but I don't really know what to do with. So They've just gone on the compost heap. And then I have 2 shelves up here. I've kind of pulled everything off that and sorted that through. And then I did some of the other drawers. I sorted those out. And yeah, but I just kind of dumped it all on the floor and was like, I'll sort it all out. And then I got to that point and I was like, oh no, why did I do that? And apparently I was at my craft group last night, and one of the ladies says it's like mid-project regret syndrome or something, and that's definitely what I was experiencing. But anyway, I kind of had to have a talk to myself, because in some ways it was brilliant. Like, I got stuff out and I was like, oh, I didn't know I had that, and oh, I forgot I bought those, and oh, this is really nice yarn that I didn't remember that I had, and oh, look at all this fabric that I dyed, or oh, I could do this, oh, I could do that. So I was like getting loads and loads and loads of ideas of things that I could do. But at the same time, like with all more stuff and with more ideas, I started to feel a bit overwhelmed by it all, and a bit kind of panicked by it all, and also quite guilty at the amount of stuff that there is that isn't using, that's just sitting there, that I'm not using. And it just kind of ended up in this sort of paralysis of, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start, what should I do, what should I make first, what should I use first, what should I keep, what should I get rid of, in terms like what could I pass on. I mean, would somebody else make better use of this? Am I ever going to get round to it? And so I kind of went and made myself a cup of tea, and then sat there looking at it all thinking, I need to get a grip. So what I did was tidy up the mess that I'd made. I didn't open any more drawers. I didn't open any more cupboards. I have not looked under either of the tables in here. And there's a lot of stuff under those tables. I didn't look at any more baskets. I just said, stop where you are, sort this, tidy this, and then deal with what you found. So that's where I started. And those bits are a lot tidier. It would be a lie to say that the room was tidy. It is not, by any stretch of the imagination. But it's not as bad as it was at that nadir of of Wednesday. But I have kind of started thinking about what I can do to use up the resources that I've got. What projects did I have in mind that I could actually finish quickly and make a success of, and what things do I need to let go of and move on from, even if it's unraveling a project to use the yarn for something else, or unpicking a project and using the fabric for something else. I've just sort of, when I had that cup of tea and was looking at it all, I sat down and started to write a plan of what I was going to do. And nothing makes me feel happier than a list. Is whenever I feel a bit kind of panicked or worried, or whenever I've got a lot to do, a list is what sorts me out. So I've got an extensive list now, but I have already checked a couple of things off it. So that kind of immediately made me feel better. So that is, when I pulled out things out the cupboard of doom, there were 4 cushion inserts. 2 were sort of 2 were really good quality feather ones that my auntie had given me last year. She was doing the same thing, emptying cupboards and stuff and moving stuff on, and she asked me if I would like them, and I said yes, I would very much. And then 2 were just ones that I already had hanging around. So one of them I just very easily put into this cushion cover. This was a cushion cover I must have made, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, a long time ago. And the big boys have had it in their bedroom. They share a big room, and they've had it in there for yonks. But the insert that was in there, they don't use cushions as cushions. They pile them up on the floor and then jump off stuff onto them, or they hit each other with them. That's basically what they use the cushions for. So the inserts had gone kind of all ratty and lumpy and horrible. So I just got rid of that, took the cushion insert out, got rid of it, washed the cushion cover, ironed it, and put a new cushion insert in. It's so cute. Look at the little sailor duck. This is a vintage fabric that I bought that used to sit on a chair in the hallway in our old house, upstairs outside the bathroom. And the boys have had it since then. So that was dead easy. It took no time, but immediately I thought, that's one thing, used in Out the Sewing Room. And then the other one was a very quick cushion that I made. This is fabric that I dyed. The blue is Indigo, the yellow is Sweet Sicily. I dyed it a couple of years ago, I think. Maybe not this summer, last summer, or maybe the year before, I'm not sure. It's really heavy linen. It was an old French linen sheet. It's really nice, good quality. And I'd made these blocks thinking that I might do a quilt, but everybody said, why have you done a Swedish flag? Like, everybody did it. And I was going to do them in different colours and like patch them up and kind of had, I don't know, like some sort of pattern with the rings. I hadn't quite figured it out, but that's how I wanted it to be, but bigger. So like interconnecting or tessellating squares. I don't know how to describe it really. I could sort of picture it in my head, but everyone kept saying, that's the Swedish flag, that's the Swedish flag. I was like, oh. And I know if it was in different colours, I would feel differently about it, but it was just bugging me so much that everybody kept saying it that I just put it to one side and thought, oh, I'm not doing it anymore. I can't be bothered. But I had these 4 blocks and they happened to be the perfect size to fit the front of one of these cushion inserts. So I've just sewn them together, sewn a back, and yeah, like, job done. That is another thing out the cupboard, ticked off. Like, really small things, probably seems really silly, like, but I find that when you, sorry, I'm not very comfortable, I'm trying to avoid the glare of the sun. I think when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed and you've got like loads to get through, I mean, this is all self-imposed, it's all my stuff, you know. I could just say I'm just gonna sell it all or pass it all on, or, you know, whatever, donate it, but I don't want to do that. Obviously I want to kind of use it and enjoy making things, and some stuff, you know, is really practical to make, but I am aware that this is, you know, my own problem, and it's not really, you know, a problem in the grand scale of things. But I find that when you do like have those feelings, if you just tick off a few like small wins really quickly at the beginning, that everything suddenly becomes a bit more manageable and easier to cope with. So that's, you know, that's what they were, and I do feel good about it. I do have a couple of other finished objects. I'll start with it. This nearly finished. As I said at the beginning of the week, I was feeling really poorly. So from Sunday afternoon, really until about Wednesday morning, I felt very, very poorly, and I didn't really do anything other than sit in front of the fire or sleep. And when I was sat in front of the fire, I did inevitably do some knitting, because I'm sure a lot of people are the same. I find it quite difficult to just sit and do nothing. Or even if I'm watching the telly, like, I need busy hands. Usually I find it quite hard to just sit and do nothing. But I wasn't feeling brilliant, so I couldn't really read for long periods of time. So thankfully my hand and elbow are feeling much better, so I could do lots of knitting, which means I finished a project that I don't even think I'd started last time. Maybe I'd shown a swatch. I know that I showed a swatch on Instagram, but I hadn't showed any progress of the project at all. This is the Bjos Vest. I think it might be Bjos. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, sorry. From Rosa Pomar. And it's a really popular like waistcoat type pattern. I've seen, can you see it? I've seen loads and loads of people. Well, I follow Rosa Pomar on Instagram, but lots of people seem to knit it. So I have knitted it in, well, there are actually 5 different yarns in here, but the main yarns are this one, and this one, that I think I showed last time. They are the sort of mystery DK yarns, like 100% wool, but sort of mystery yarns that I bought at the outlet at from Laxton's at Yarndale. I said they were just baskets of like 100-gram skeins for like £5 or £3, and I'd intended to buy 2 DK and 2 fingering, and somehow I'd ended up with 3 DK. And I dyed this one first in a bath with the seed heads from dock plants. You know, they get those orange sort of spiky dry seed heads, and it'd given me this very sort of pinky beige colour. And then I put, this was I'd left the skein white, but I'd bundled it with onion skins and coreopsis flowers and marigold flowers and some more of the dock seed heads, and I'd bundled it up and then dunked that in the exhaust bath from the dock seed along with just a plain skein, and it came out a lot browner, whereas this is like a pinkier beige colour. This came out as sort of darker, which I think is probably to do with the dye oxidizing. It often darkens and deepens over time, because it was like 2 days later. But I still think they all look really nice together. I couldn't quite get gauge. The pattern is with she holds a sport with a mohair. Oh, in fact, in her pattern pictures, it's very pretty. I'll put a picture up if I remember. She holds a dark sport weight yarn, and then she changes the colour of the mohair all the way through it, so you get quite a subtle stripe, which is really nice. And she does have this big band of like a whiter stripe, and I kind of figured out roughly where her placement was, and I kind of wanted mine in the same place because I really liked hers. I couldn't get gauge with just the DK, and these 2 yarns were slightly different from this one. As I said, there was no information on they both said they had 200 meters per 100 grams, but these were definitely thinner. So in the end, I held this with 1 strand of mohair, and I used a Filcolana Tilia, I think in the colour, I want to say cardamom. I think that's what it was. I just happened to have it. I don't know why. I don't know why I have it, but I just had quite a lot of it. I still got quite a lot of it, to be honest. And then these 2 I held with 2 strands of that same mohair, and I ended up with the same gauge across all 3 yarns. And then the ribbon, I held 1 strand of the darker yarn with 1 strand of the mohair, and then 1 strand of Filcolana even Alva, which is like a lace weight alpaca yarn, and that was in a brownie colour. I think it might have been something like latte or something it was called. It was like a very pale brown. I just wanted the ribbon slightly darker. It doesn't really look much different, to be honest, but that's what I decided to do, using up a bit of stash. And so it's nearly finished. I haven't put the buttons on. I am going to put buttons on. I am a great one for not bothering with buttons on cardigans because I don't really like buttoning them up, but I think I will button this up like on days like today when it's very cold and you've got no heating, to have like this on and then a big cardigan or something over the top. I think I'd like it buttoned up so that you definitely see it, and otherwise, like 2 cardigans, you still have that cold patch down the middle, don't you? So I think to have it buttoned up. I was at craft group last night, which is held at the shop called Beyond Measure. Grace has a big online shop, but she also has, I've said it before, like an actual physical shop, which is really close, and I go to like a craft night there, and it's great because it means that I've always got an opportunity to go and rummage through the buttons. So I really liked these ones. Can't see, and they look really nice, I think. With the sort of, because they're slightly mottled, I think they kind of go, but they're too big. They won't go through the buttonholes. So I'd thought that might be the case. So I got, I don't know where the camera is. These ones are just like plain wooden buttons, and they're a bit dark, but I think they'll be fine. I think they'll do. So I'm hoping to get those on this afternoon. If I do, I will take a picture or a video of me wearing it and put that in, because it's a bit tricky, isn't it, to see it like that. Or it might be tonight. I'll figure that out. You don't need to listen to me witter about what I'm going to do. But that's so it's very, very, very nearly finished, and I'm really pleased with that, actually. It's really nice. I'm being attacked. It's really nice to have something out of yarn that I've dyed, and I dyed that quite recently, and I've like used it straight away. So that kind of gives me again a little hit of, you know, you're not just doing stuff and stuff sitting around. So yeah, the other, I've got a couple more finished objects. I'm sorry if I'm a bit all over the place. It's just, like I say, it's been a bit of a week. I feel a bit like, I don't know. Anyway, so this is the other, I said I bought sort of 4 mystery skeins, and one of them was a sock skein from the Laxon store at Yarndale. This is the 4th one. Ooh, that's a pretty good representation of the colour. This is really nice. This is 100% merino sock yarn. It's got a high twist, so it should be okay for socks. I'm going to knit them up because I haven't used it before, so I don't know if it will be. It's very soft, so I'm suspicious about how durable it'll be. It is very pretty. I dyed it with avocado stones. We don't buy many avocados really, but we get a weekly veg box from a local shop, and the last few have had avocados in, and so we've been saving the stones, and this was 3 stones, and it is just made like this. Although if you ask me what my favourite colour is, my favourite colour would be green. I love green. I love all shades of green. But I have a particular love of that shade of pink, that sort of dark, beigey, dusky pink. And it's kind of come out really ever so slightly variegated, so like a tonal. I just think it would be lovely. So I really want to cast on some socks now. So I think that might be maybe like a Christmas cast on. That'd be good. We're away for Christmas and for New Year with different members of family, so that might be a good easy thing to have with me. I then stuck 20 grams of the Shetland DK wool that I've been dyeing up. I think I showed a load of it last time. Stuck that into the exhaust. You can see it's much paler, but like a really nice sort of shell pink. So that's just going to go in the box. I was saying I might do a cushion or a colour work yoke, or both, because I've got quite a lot of those wools now. So that's gone on the list. But knitting takes a long time, doesn't it? You know, to get through knitting projects, you need to allow yourself quite a lot of time. Sewing's that bit quicker. But yeah. And then the last lot of finished objects, which I'm not going to show all of them because there's a lot. My pottery course, like the term, came to an end this week, and I picked up my pots on Wednesday. So I will be going back in January for another 10 weeks, but this 10-week stint has finished, and I have up and down feelings about my progress and my success. I've definitely got a bit better at the throw-in. I got some much better shapes, and I had to go at handles, which were not excellent, if I'm honest. That is a hard skill, and it's going to take me a while to practice it, to hone it. But I'd made lots of stuff and I was happier with the shapes. But then, I don't know, the week that we did the glazing, which was like last week, I felt just really stressed by it all, and I just made loads of mistakes, and I knew that I'd made loads of mistakes doing it, and it's come through. A lot of them I've put too much glaze on and they're a bit bubbly, or they're a bit drippy, or they look a bit rubbish. And so I was a bit disheartened, because I was hoping to give the odd one away as a Christmas present, but you wouldn't want them, I don't think. But this one came out so cute. I showed it on my Instagram. So this was just the colour of the clay, although if you look, I managed to use a different clay body for the handle. so you can see where it's smeared in, so that's not ideal, but never mind, you live and learn. It's just had a clear glaze on it, but I painted these two birdies on, and they're so cute. I'm so pleased with them. And it's a nice little mug, sits nicely in your hand. You don't get a massive cup of coffee in it, if I'm honest, but it's not bad. And I really like, I've kept, oh, telephone, excuse me. Hello, I'm back. Sorry about that. I always, I feel like I've got quite lucky doing 13 of these before the phone has rung during one of them. So sorry about that. Yeah, I was saying I'm really pleased with this. I've kept the template that I drew and that I used, and I think next time I might try and make a little set maybe. They're very cute. Other things I've made that are okay are these. Like, there's a bowl and a cup. My daughter asked for me to make her a bowl for her porridge in the morning. It looks nice inside. The glazing, again, I don't know, can you see? There are bits where it went matte, like it didn't, I don't know why. This was like a wax resist, so I painted the wax on in a circle. And here, can you see? There you go, it sees it really well, how bubbly it is, and the drippy bits. And I just did it badly. It should all look like this. It was a reactive glaze, so it should be black with these little bits of sort of pearly blue, which would have been really pretty if it worked out. So she was like, I think, can you see it in there? You see the blue bits. It's really pretty when it works out. I think she'll be pleased. They're going to be part of a Christmas present. So a little set for a morning porridge and cup of tea, and then I might have another go at that next time too. I'll cycle through these quickly. These I made them all little name tags, well, like initial tags. They've gone, they're a bit scruffy. The kind of paint on glazes have kind of bled a little bit, which I was warned might happen, and it did happen. But I'm going to tie them onto their Christmas presents. That's what they're for. And the last thing, which again I'm quite pleased with, but I'd like to have another go at to kind of refine next time, is I hand built this. So I didn't do it on the wheel. You can see it's all kind of dimply. It's meant to look like a swan. The bit that needs refining is the neck. The neck and the head is a bit blocky. And I might maybe even try and put some wings on it. And I'm going to put a candle in there. I might just stand a candle in it, or I might pour a candle in it. I've got wax and wicks and stuff, so I might do that. I have this one. I might have seen before, which is a tea light. It's just slightly on. It's about to go out. A tea light holder that my best friend bought it me for a birthday many years ago, and I really love it. And then I've seen other one, like other potters on the internet or on Pinterest or whatever, have made little bird ones or little fish ones or other little animal ones where you have this sort of circle and like a head and a tail. And yeah, they were the things that kind of informed my ideas. And I kind of purposefully splodged the glaze on because I wanted to kind of emphasize, you know, the facets and the fingerprints and stuff. So again, I might have a little go at refining this, and I might maybe try and put like a suggestion of wings on maybe. But I'm quite pleased. So that's that really. That's all my finished objects. I've got a couple of whips to show you. Well done if you're still with me. One again on Instagram. I showed I don't think I've ever said what my Instagram is. I'm sorry if you don't follow me there and you would like to. It is just at under.eagle.mountain. So it's the same as here on YouTube. So if you don't follow me over there and you'd like to, there's like more sort of, not every day, but day-to-day stuff. And I did show this wool before I'd wound it into balls in the skein. And this is ages ago. I dyed some, this is Laxton's Wool Trace yarn, which when it comes, you have like a little QR code and you can scan it and find out exactly where the wool came from. And on it, it was written that it was Romney wool, which is not a breed that I've knitted with before, I don't think. It's quite toothy. It's not, I mean, it's not scratchy. I'm trying to think. It's not as scratchy as the Let Lopi. I mean, I'm all right with scratchy wool. It doesn't bother me, but it's softer than that. But it is a little bit hairy and a little bit stringy. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but it's quite, I like it. I dyed it with Birch Bark and I got a really sort of pale beigey pink colour, which I really liked. Much paler than the sock. Yeah, probably closer to this, but a bit sort of beigeier, not quite a shell pink, a bit beigeier. But I was showing my daughter and she was like, oh, you're just going to look naked from a distance. Like, that is exactly the same colour as your skin. Like, it's not going to look good. So I was like, So then I overdyed it in an onion skin bath. And I was hoping to just, like, keep some of the pink undertone. But it didn't. It just went full on yellow. And it was a bit flat. Like, I dyed it really evenly, but it was a bit flat. I wasn't that keen. So I then decided to go and jazz it up, and I did a bundle dye because they are all the rage at the minute. They are so much fun. Once you've done it, you just want to keep doing it. But I know that Emma at Woolly Mammoth Fibre has done a lot with the flowers from her garden. Jane at Snapdragon Life has been doing it on silk scarves and has done like a tutorial in her studio club. Lorna at Thread and Yarn has done some bundle dyeing for the wool that she sells. So, like, it happens, doesn't it? You know, people, ideas all come at once in a flood for lots of different people. So I've done a few lots actually. I've done some in the summer where I wrapped it up in fabric and steamed it, and I showed that here, and I showed the fabric too, and that was really beautiful. But the one for my vest and this one, I didn't. I wrapped all the material inside the skein. Like, I laid the skein out damp and I wrapped all the stuff into it, and then I just kind of cable tied it all up into a bundle. So inside this there was red onion skin, marigold and coreopsis flower, and then I dunked it into the exhaust of the avocado dye. So I don't think there was much colour left in that, but it has just seemed to knock back some of the yellow, so it's more of a brown now, whereas before it was quite yellow. It was a bit much, but you can see, oh, the sun is, and it's beautiful, but it's getting in my way. These are dark green, and then there's some bits like there. Can you see that yellow is so bright? And then I think that's from the marigold, and this sort of rusty orange colour is from the coreopsis. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and I did all 500 grams, so 5 skeins, and I did 3 with, I think I put a picture of it on my Instagram, I think like 4 repeats of like onion skin, this flower, that flower, onion skin, this flower, and then I did 2 skeins that had like 1 repeat less, so the dye material was spread out slightly more, hoping that means if I use those skeins for the arms, the sprinkles will be like spaced evenly to the body, because obviously when you're knitting the body, each like knit round, the circumference is much bigger, whereas when you're knitting in a tight circumference for the arm, those speckles will come thick and fast, like they'll come closer together, and I didn't want this bit to look sprinkly and this bit to look stripy. I don't know if that will have worked. We'll just have to knit it up and see, but I'm hoping that it will have worked. I'm also hoping that I've got enough, the 300 grams is enough to knit the body, because I've chosen quite an oversized sweater, and I do have enough, just about. Well, I think when I figured it out, I think I ended up with something like 50 meters less. Let me tell you what the pattern is, and then I'll waffle on about that. So that's the back. This is where I'm up to. This is the Louvre sweater, pullover sweater, I think, Louvre sweater by Petite Knit, which isn't one of hers. Like, I didn't know it existed. I don't knit a lot of Petite Knit patterns. I think I've knitted one. In fact, I think I have knitted the teddy bear sweater for my little boy. I knitted it him for his 3rd birthday. I think possibly even in the recommended yarn, like the same yarn as the sample. It looks very similar, and it's beautiful and soft. He got it for his 3rd birthday. He will be 6 in the new year, and it still fits him. Like, it has just grown with him. I think it's slightly baggy around the neckline now. It kind of sagged, but he wears it loads. It's beautiful and soft. It's lovely and warm, and it was really, like, it was an easy knit. That was 3 years ago. I'd been knitting for a long time, but it was right at the beginning of me sort of beginning to knit obsessively the way that I do now. And yeah, I could follow the pattern and everything. She doesn't hold your hand as much as some knitwear designers do. And I quite like having the needle threaded for me when it comes to patterns, but it's fine. I can, I know enough to cope with patterns that have less direction in. But yeah, this is the first one of hers that I've knitted for me, and it's not one of the really, at least I don't think so, it's not one of the ones that you see around loads. That I did, as I say, I didn't know it existed. It's called the Louvre, as in oh, well, I was thinking like shutters, you know, like on a blind, but maybe it's to do with the museum in Paris. I'm not sure. That's how it's spelled. It's just got this really, it's got like I think it's 11 centimeters of ribbon at the neck, and then it also has really long ribbon at the cuffs. It's big, oversized, cozy. I would have easily fitted into the size 2 or the size 3. The size 2 would give me some positive ease, but the pattern was it recommended quite a lot of positive ease. I can't remember off the top of my head, but something like 20 centimeters maybe even a bit more. And quite often I fall in between the size 2 and the size 3. And quite often in the past I've chosen the size 2. Partly because I think, oh, I don't want it to look really, you know, that if it's saying it'll get, you want, you know, 10 inches of positive ease, well, the size 3 will give me 15 and the size 2 will give me 5. So, you know, do I want that much positive ease? That's like maybe too much, maybe it'll swamp me. So sometimes I err on the side of less positive ease. And sometimes, to be honest, the decision is made because that size jump between size 2 and size 3 usually involves an extra skein of yarn. And if I'm buying the yarn, I often think, well, I could save myself, you know, how much money and still have a jumper that fits me. Or sometimes I've already got the yarn. I think, well, I don't have enough to knit the size 3, but I do have enough to knit the size 2, so I'll just do the size 2. And not always, but quite often, I've regretted that choice. And I think, actually, I would like this more if it were a bit bigger. And so because this is an oversized jumper, I decided I really wanted to go for it being oversized. And if I'd knitted the size 2, I would have had quite a bit of yarn left over, like at least a whole skein. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with that? Like, you know, it'll just sit in that cupboard of doom. So I figured it all out, all the meterage and everything. And I think I should have 50 meters too little of this yarn to complete the jumper. But once I've joined in the round, if I then knit the sleeves, I know that everything I've got left, I've got for the body. So I can just knit until, and I could knit if I have lots of the sleeve yarn left, I can always just use that for the bottom ribbon. So I'm not worried about running out. And also, you know, pattern designers factor in a certain amount of overestimation of yardage, don't they? So 50 metres is not that much. When you've got 200 metres in a skein, you know, it's like a quarter of a skein. So I'm thinking I'll be all right. So you can see how it comes out as a sort of speckle. It's really nice, actually. I'm struggling a little bit with the light. I apologise. It's a very beautiful day, like I said, but it does mean that the colour's blowing out a little bit. Maybe I'll try and put a photograph in if that's not doing it, but I think that's pretty good representation. And even if you can't quite get the colours, you can see the sort of distribution. It's worked really well. I was worried it was going to kind of look splodgy rather than speckly, or that it was going to look kind of stripy. I've said this before, I'm not a massive fan of micro striping, and I wanted to avoid that. And actually, I'm really, really pleased with how that's turned out. So yeah, that's my own, well, it's not my only knitting work in progress. I said last time I'd cast on the Wellerman shawl by Caitlin Hunter at Boylan Knitworks, and I have made some progress on that, but not very much. I've still got like an inch. You can just see the pattern is starting to emerge, and I can just see the one place that I've made a mistake in the pattern, but there is no way I'm ripping back to correct it. It's just going to have to live there. It's like right up here, so I think, you know, my hair will cover it or whatever. And in the whole busyness of the pattern, you probably won't notice the odd mistake, but each row is so long, it's like hundreds of stitches, and it takes forever. And because I'm not good at reading a chart, so I'm using the written instructions, which I really appreciate that Caitlin Hunter put in there, but I can't do it and do anything else. You know, I can't listen to the radio or music. I can't listen to or watch a podcast. I cannot talk to anybody. I cannot watch television. I just literally have to be sat in a room by myself knitting. And I don't have much of that sort of time. You know, most of my knitting is done in the evening when I'm either with the kids. You know, I might be knitting if they're eating tea and I'm not, although we do usually eat together, but sometimes, or if we're watching telly together, or if I'm watching telly with my husband in the evening, like that's when I'll tend to do it. And I can hear a child scurrying. You okay?
Yeah, fine.
Oh, now I've got a cat. Hello. Sorry, it's total chaos this week. So I don't really get that much. I really have to like carve it out during the day and sit down and do it. And I haven't done very much of it. So I'm not going to show it because it's like boring. It's just like a tiny strip of knitting. Hello.
You can keep.
Excuse me. Hello, back again. Sorry, he came to talk to me, my son, about the cats because it was very important to him. He couldn't wait, so that's fine. So my other whip is a quilt top that I started to make. I used to make loads and loads of quilts, and I love making quilts. And when I originally started natural dyeing, that was all on fabric. It was on like old bed sheets, either cotton or linen. And never bought fabric to dye with. I actually think the dye, like new old fabric, takes up the dye better, I think, although you kind of sometimes have to cut round holes or stains or whatever. But I have like a drawer full of it, and so I used that to make quilts. I mean, I made quilts for years before I started naturally dyeing, but once I did start naturally dyeing, I mostly gave up on commercial dyed or printed or patterned fabric and just used the fabric that I dyed. And then the past couple of years, I've kind of fallen out of doing it regularly. I think part of it is just that knitting took up more of my spare time, and knitting is more portable. Like, you know, you can take it out with you, or you can just sit down and do it in front of the television where obviously if you're sewing something on the sewing machine, you need to be in the place with the sewing machine to do it. And once you get to the quilting stage, I do that by hand. But again, it's not as portable. You don't necessarily take it to somebody else's house or out to a cafe or anything like that in the way that you can with knitting. But also, I just have a lot of quilts. And, you know, my kids will always say, I'll have that one, but they've got a lot of quilts. You know, there's just quilts coming out of our ears. And at some point you think, do I need another quilt? Like, what am I going to do with this? And it kind of put a dampener on my making them, because I didn't know. Well, I was going to say I didn't know what I was making them for. I was making them for the joy of making them, and I loved doing it. But again, that same feeling of like this like guilt of all this resource, both in terms of the fabric and the dye stuff and the energy that you use, but also in terms of my time, you know, time away from the family or from my responsibilities in the home. And, you know, I'm carving out time to make these things, but what am I making them for? Why am I doing it? So I kind of stopped, really. But when I hurt my arm and my wrist, and knitting was a bit of a pain, like the compulsion to make something did not go away as well. That remained. And so I thought, oh, I don't know, I've got these little piles of fabric that I dyed ages ago. They look nice together. I'll just make a quilt top. And I started, and I was like, oh, I forgot how much I love this. Like, I really enjoy doing this. So I've made a quilt top. Now, again, I'm probably going to have to put a photograph of this in, because I'm not going to be able to fit a quilt top onto the screen. But you'll be able to see the colours. So there's basically 4 colours. There's pink, purple, blue and green. Can you see that? But different shades. I can't see, so I have no idea what you're seeing. But hopefully that gives you an idea. So it's these half square triangles that are set, like I said, pointing outwards from a central block, and then they've just got little squares all the way around, making a pretty edge and a white border. And then I'm going to back it in white, quilt it, and then the last thing I'll do is add the binding strip, and I'm going to do a stripy binding with like all the offcuts of these various colours, so it'll mimic that, but it'll be a thinner stripe. I love a stripy binding. I said that before, actually, when I was knitting this and I put the stripy ribbon on. That's what it reminded me of. I've made quite a few quilts with a stripy binding, and I do love them. I think it looks so pretty. It takes a lot more time because you have to piece all the binding strip rather than just cutting strips of fabric. But I think it'll be worth it. So it's really nice. I'm feeling it because it's old cotton, it's old bed sheets. It's the white, the coloured fabric has all been dyed at different times. I should probably say, obviously the blue was dyed with indigo. This very dark blue was not dyed by me. I think there's 4 triangles and maybe 3 or 4 squares of this. This was dyed by Jessica at Sugar House Workshop. I bought 2 yards. What's that? 190 centimetres, something like that. No. Just under 2 meters of this deep blue indigo years and years and years ago to make my eldest son a quilt. He wanted a dark blue quilt with white stars. So at the time I couldn't dye with indigo, and Jessica dyed it for me, and I used most of it in that quilt, but I had bits of it left, and I've just managed to eke it out. I've used it time and time again in all sorts of different things, and I still have tiny bits of it, so I will continue to use it, but the rest of it I dyed. So it's just different shades of blue from different indigo vats, like different times. And then the purple is mostly logwood, which is not something I usually dye with. That's like a heartwood of a tree, I think from South America, and you buy it as an extract and dye with it. I didn't buy that. My husband bought it for me as a present. He bought me some logwood and some kutch, which is also a tree bark extract, and he bought me some madder root powder while my madder was growing, and I've still got most of all of those 3 things that he bought me because I don't use it very often, partly because I'm not sure about the idea of trees being cut down to make dye extract. I don't know how I feel about that. Not good, I don't think. I'm not entirely sure what the process is, whether it's the trees are used for something else and it's like the waste. I don't know, but the fact that I don't know makes me uncomfortable. But also, I don't really like dyeing with extracts. I like dyeing with whole dye stuff. So I think I don't know if that's the difference between natural dyeing and botanically dyeing. Botanically being when you dye with the plant or the thing itself rather than with a bought powder made from that thing. To me, it's more exciting to dump a load of stuff in and see what you get. You get a much greater failure rate, and it's much more difficult to get the exact same result time and time and time again. So if you were a natural dyer dyeing wool for sale and you wanted, 50, 60, 100 skeins all the same colour, or you wanted to be able to dye 20 this month and 20 next month and 20 the month after and have them all look the same, then that would be very difficult to do. Not impossible, but very difficult to do with whole plant stuffs, whole dye stuffs, because the colour you get varies from where it's grown, how it was watered, whether it was what the weather was like, what time you pick it, everything. There are so many variables that you can get a difference, even if you use the same amount of stuff, the same weight of stuff, and you got it from the same garden, or year on year it can be different, or season upon season it can be different. So I find that really exciting and really interesting, and I think like measuring out powder and mixing it into a paste and putting it in water, and like you could be doing anything. It is natural, so there aren't the same chemicals going into the water system and everything, but there is no, in terms of process, there's no difference between using a natural dye stuff and a chemical dye stuff. So some of the magic of it is lost for me. Like, I'm not having a go at anybody that does it that way. It's just not how I love to do it. So although it's a really amazing purple, and you can also use logwood with iron to get a really good black colour, it's not something I use a lot. But I will use the extracts that I've got eventually. I will use them up because I don't want to waste them. This sort of more dark mauvey purple was actually madder, my madder root from the garden that I grew and dried and ground and all the rest of it. And then when you dip that in iron, it gives you this lovely sort of like the colour escapes me, sort of aubergine colour, really. I really like it. I'm going to try that on wool. And then these are greens. So these will have been different yellows, which were then over dyed with indigo. I have no idea what, because I didn't label any of them. And then the pinks, these dark pinks, so this dark pink and this bright pink, they were madder, and this paler pink here I think is avocado, might be rosemary. Avocado, rosemary, bracken, those plants all give a sort of beigey pink on fabric. Wool, like proper wool, and silk take dye much more strongly. Like you get a much more saturated colour on those animal fibres than you do normally on a cellulose fibre like fabric or linen, cotton or linen I should say. So whereas it looks like a nice dark sort of dusky pink on here, it comes out a slightly beigeier. But again, this would have been one set of avocados grown in one place maybe, and this would be other avocados grown in another place at a different time of year, so you get different results. Even the type of water that you use, whether you use tap water and where you are in the country and where your tap water comes from, or whether you use rainwater. Sometimes I just leave out pans outside and collect the rainwater and use that. I haven't tried it, but I have heard Jessica actually from Sugar House Workshop said, she tried dyeing with the same thing, this is years ago, but over a different heat source, so over gas on the stove and then on like a fire outside, and like the type of heat, I guess the quality of the heat also changed the like the outcomes. So I found that really interesting. I'm waffling. This is going to be a long one because I'm all over the place. Here, so there we go. That's that. I'm going to back it and quilt it and bind it so that it's kind of like a half finished object because it's a finished quilt top. I can't do that until I finish. I wonder if I could show you. Ignore the mess. Can you see? The sunlight's there over the back of my chair is that quilt. That's all different pinks, and I made that nearly 2 years ago, over a year and a half ago. I called it the blossom quilt because there's lots of those little flower shapes in one corner, and then they get fewer and fewer and fewer as you come down and across the quilt, and it reminded me of blossom falling off a tree. Like, that's the effect I was going for. And I think in my first ever podcast, which was March, I showed a photograph of the quilt top and said, I'm going to finish this. And I pinned it. I made the backing and I pinned it, laid it up and pinned it, and I dyed the thread that I'm going to use to tie it, and then I've done nothing. And I have to finish that one before I can do this most recent one, because all the pins that I need to fasten the layers together before quilting are in the blossom quilt, and obviously I don't want to go out and buy more, so I just need to do that job so I can do the next job. So that has to happen. And it also has to happen because in my future plans, I want to do some more quilting. When I was going through the cupboard of doom, one of the things I found was a big bag, canvas bag, which at some point held a woolen duvet. We have a woolen duvet on our bed. We've got one on, it's my mum's bed. She doesn't live with us. We have 2 spare rooms, and one of the spare rooms is done up for my mum. She stays quite regularly, and although other people do stay in it sometimes, it's referred to as grandma's bedroom, and it's her, she chose how to decorate it. It's her furniture in there. She leaves her dresses and gowns in there, and she's got her own slippers in there, and she puts she's got her spare hairbrush and her toiletries and everything live there, because she comes so often that it's nice for her to have stuff here and not to have to cart everything backwards and forwards all the time. So it's her bedroom, and she's got a woolen duvet on her bed because they're really, really warm. They're much better than I find than a synthetic duvet, and they're not, I think they last better than a feather one. I've got a feather eider-down. Actually, Mum does too on her bed, but the feathers come out every now and again, and they either poke you or they make a mess in the room. So I didn't really fancy a feather duvet, but the wool ones are really nice. I'm waffling again. But when it came in this big canvas bag with the name of the company on the outside, and then inside that there's a number of smaller bags which pillows must have come in. So I'm gonna show you. You see, it's got a handle, 2 handles on the top, and it's got a zip, and the pillow goes inside. Now it's got, I don't want to really show off the name of the company, because I don't want to be anybody's, don't advertise them. But although they're very good, I've got a complaint. I don't want to encourage anybody to go and spend money, basically. So they come like this, which is really nice. It was a nice way to package them, and it keeps them protected and everything, and way, way, way better than them being wrapped in that horrible crinkly plastic. But we've got 4 pillows on our bed. 2 of Mum's pillows are wool. The baby's pillows, he's not a baby, he's nearly 6, but he's always our baby. His pillows, wool. My daughter's got at least 2 of her pillows are wool on the other spare bed, which we call my dad's room, because when him and his wife come, they sleep in that room and not in my mum's room. You know how these things are. At least 2 of their pillows are wool. So I've got quite a few of these, and I think some of them I've passed on to other people I think I've probably put like Christmas presents in them. I know in the past I've stitched like little quilted squares and kind of appliqued it on top of the branding so that you can't see the branding, because that's the thing, I don't really want, I'm not going to carry something around with somebody else's logo on. When I was growing up, my mum would never let us have t-shirts with like band names or cartoon characters or anything on company, nothing. And she just said, you are not an advertising hoarding, you are not free advertising for that company. And she was really strict about it. And at the time, you know, you're a bit annoyed because you want a Mickey Mouse t-shirt or whatever you want when you're 6. But as I've grown up, I'm exactly the same. I can't stand any sort of advertising, branding on my clothes, and I don't let the kids do it either. That's the odd thing has snuck through, ironically, because my mother's bought it for them. But, you know, I don't like doing it. So at the same time, I don't like tote bags and stuff. Even if it's a company that I like and that I support, I don't really like carrying it around with their name on it. It's a bugbear. So, but also, even if when you just put the patch on, it's quite flimsy. It's just calico. It's like unbleached calico. It's nice, but it's a bit flimsy. They're not really sturdy bags. And I feel they need a bit more to them. So what I've decided, I've got one over there. I'm not going to get it. But basically, I've just taken it all apart. I've, unpicked all the seams. I've taken out the handles. I've taken out the zip. I'm going to use it. I'm going to iron it all out, use it as a template, make a quilted outer. So it'd just be like the pieced top, and I'll quilt it to the batting. I've got a whole box in that cupboard of like bits of batting and bits of wool, like woolen blanket, which I often use as batting. Now, like boiled wool blankets that I've obviously used in the past as batting, and it's all the little weird bits that are left over that are too big to just bin or compost or whatever. Like, they're still a good size, so I don't really want to just stick them on the compost. They're either cotton, bamboo or wool, so nothing synthetic. So I could compost them, or I could use them like in the veg garden to, you know, damp down weeds. But they're too big, they're too good to do that with. But I'd have to really piece a lot of them together to get a whole quilt top. They're good for things like pot holders, stuff like that, oven gloves. But I could use them for this. I could piece them together, make a pieced quilt top in the front and the back of the bag, and then I'll use the existing calico as the lining, I think, and sew it all together and then have a bag. So that is my plan. I hope that all made sense. But that's my plan. And if it goes well with the first one, I've got 2 more of the pillow-sized ones. And then I've got the one that a duvet came in. I think that must have been a single duvet, because it's not, they'd have really had to shove a whole big duvet in there. But anyway, that's kind of, these are just flat. I'm going to say they're 2D. They're not 2D, you know, in the real sense of the word, but they're just flat. Whereas that one's got like a profile, you know, it's got a panel around the edge that makes it like that wide. So that would it'd be a really good size for an overnight bag. And these would be good sizes for overnight bags for the kids, say. So that is on my list of things to do in the not too distant future, and that will use up those bags that I've been hoarding because they were too good to just, like, I don't want to just chuck them out, but they've kind of been lingering because I don't want to use them in their current state. So it'll use up the bags, it'll use up a lot of that like batting offcuts that I've been hoarding, and it'll use up a lot of the fabric. I've got dyed fabric, you know, fabric that I've dyed, but I've also got 2 drawers of like other fabric from when I bought fabric for quilting, or like the fabric that I use for dressmaking. You always end up with bits left over, and again, they're too big to just chuck on the compost heap, or to I don't know about just sending everything you don't want to charity, because I feel like it's just a bit like shoving your problem and making it somebody else's problem. So I'd rather try and do something with it. So I feel like that would be a good win too. And then the only other thing I've got on my list is those front side flip beanies, the checkerboard ones that I've made 4 of so far. I need to make 1 more because my eldest boy wants one. In fact, the blue, I did a blue and white one. So the ones, I don't have one to show near me. The green and white ones that I've shown in the past, that was knitted in Durerum Natura Ulisse, which is a sport weight yarn, and I then had enough of the white pepper to do another one, but not enough of the green. I'd used up all the green in knitting the 2 adult-sized hats. So I bought a ball of like a blue, like not quite, about like a French navy, and I used that to make a tiny little baby hat to give to a man at Potting because his wife is very close to having a baby. Maybe I did show that. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But I've got lots of that blue left. And my son really liked it, but his very, very favourite colour is orange. And I have this orange yarn, which is called 5 Moons Lunar Sport. It's in the colour Flapjack. And I bought this the very first time I went to... Everything's good. This is from unpicking those bags. It's a hand-painted yarn. It is a superwash merino, which is not something I would now buy. I realised I do not like superwash yarn. I mean, I don't really like the process and, you know, the chemicals that are involved in it. I think you can live without that in our lives. But also, I find it a bit slippy to knit with. I don't really like the feel of it in my hands. And to be honest, I'm not mega keen on super duper soft yarn. I prefer a slightly grippier yarn, I think, on the whole. But he will really like this. He will like it to wear. And again, I've got it. I think I was saying I bought it the very first time I went to Yarndale, which is a lot of years ago now. 6-7 years maybe. I think we figured out, my daughter and I, we'd been 6 times, and then we missed... Maybe we didn't miss a COVID year. Maybe they didn't because of just when it is. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But anyway, the first time I went, I was a bit overwhelmed by the whole thing. I could knit, but I wasn't, like, I didn't know as much about yarn and weights and types of spin and everything. I didn't know all of that stuff, that technical stuff, which I have since learned. Not everything, but a lot. And I was a bit overwhelmed by all the stuff that was there, all the choice, and I just came away with like 3 or 4 random skeins. And I was just like, well, what am I going to do with this? I just didn't know what I was doing. And this is one of them. So this has been in my stash for a long time, and every time I come across it, I feel a bit guilty. So although I will not be using all of it, I'll be able to use quite a lot of it. Maybe half, no, probably not even that, but some of it, it'll be cracked open anyway to knit him a hat. So that is that. And that would be, this brings me on, because it's a checkerboard hat, that brings me on to just very briefly talk about the Knit Patchwork Cowl. That is coming to an end at the end of this month. So I think today we are on 20th, something, maybe, no idea, around about the end of the 3rd week in the month, and we've got to the 30th to post your picture on your grid with the hashtag Knit Patchwork Cowl. There have been quite a lot of entries now. I mean, not loads, you know, but like a decent amount. I'm glad I did it. And at the end of the month, I will draw the last prize winner, and the last prize winner will get something really super special. Dun, dun, dun. This is a bag made by Harriet of Harriet Wildwood Stitches. It is a sock-sized bag, and it is so beautiful. And it's got like tweed at the bottom that's like blues and purples, and then this celestial print, and on the inside there's her label. I hope you can see that, and it's got stars and moons, and it's so pretty. And inside is my swatch sets, these are both sage. So that's sage as just by itself, and then that's sage that has been added. That's an exhaust bath of sage. It's a bit paler, and that's been dipped in iron, so you get the green. And they are there, and that is the last prize. She is so kind to Harriet, because she sent this, and she also sent a little notions pouch in a different pattern with birdies on, just for me, just as a kind thing. I'm so grateful to her. And I know lots of people really like her beautiful bags. They are very well made, and yeah, lucky devil. I don't want to give it away. It's so pretty. But yeah, so if you fancy that, make sure you get your entries in, post it to your grid please with the hashtag, and good luck. So I think that's it really. Oh, the only other thing, a couple of people have mentioned Vlogmas. I am not going to do Vlogmas. I mean, I'm definitely not organised to record something every day and get it kind of edited and posted every day. I can barely manage doing this, to be honest. It takes me forever. But also, I don't think my life's interesting enough. I mean, it would be super boring. Here's me making bread again every day. Here's me walking the kids to school again every day. Here's me cleaning, and here's me washing, and like, out of the whole day, a very limited amount of what I do is interested. I could probably post like 10-second videos of me doing something, and that would be it. So I'm not going to do that. You'd be relieved to hear. But I did think I might try and do like an Instagram version. So I might try and post something Christmassy every day. And it's a bit backward really, because I don't want to be doing things in order to be able to post them. But I would like to try and do something kind of festive-y every day across Advent. I used to do loads of stuff with the kids when they were littler, and I do less and less, I think, as they get older, which is partly just a function of them getting older. They don't necessarily want to make paper snowflakes and stuff. But my littlest is still very little. He's only 5. One of them's there. He's only 5, and I feel sometimes that he's missing out on things just because I've been doing it for 15 years. That sometimes, like, the urge to do it has dwindled slightly. But I thought, I'm not doing Christmas this year, and I'm not hosting New Year either, so I might have a bit more energy. I might be a little less bothered about the house being clean and tidy, or like having to prepare food in advance for anything like that. We are doing the family Christmas party at the beginning of December, but I've been a bit better at managing that. Loads of people are bringing food and stuff to help, so it'd be less of a big deal. So yeah, I think I'm going to try and do like baking or candle rolling or like card making or decorations or stuff like that, a little bit, maybe something every day. And so I might try and post every day to Instagram. It might not happen. I might do like a week and then I don't know, but I'll try my best. So that's going to be like my version. So as I say, if you don't follow me there and you'd like a little daily Christmas, like, I don't know, insight into what we do, then follow me over there. But other than that, thank you very much, and well done if you have powered on through to the end of this, because I feel like it's been long, and I feel like it's been disorganized, and a little bit like my whole week has been, to be honest. And yeah, take care. Thank you very much, and thank you especially to all the people after the last 2 episodes who have taken time to leave a comment, particularly those who said last time that they did like looking at the dyeing. I think I'd made a comment that on Instagram, like the posts where I show dyeing are never very popular. I don't have a massive following anyway, but those ones definitely don't do as well as the knitting ones, and I'd sort of made a comment like, oh, maybe people don't like dyeing. But lots of people got back to me and said I do like the dyeing, you know, I'm really interested in it, and please keep showing it. So thank you, especially to those. You kind of all boosted my confidence and made me feel good. Okay, I'm definitely going now. Take care.